In this lesson, we'll learn how to export our interactive document out for Flash, as well as wrap up this course. Okay, so in the previous lesson, we looked at how we can control the timing of our animations through the timing panel. Now at this point, since we've already walked through exporting out for PDFs, let's go ahead and look at the options we have for exporting our documents to Flash. Now, when thinking about what our destination file is, obviously we need to think about what the limitations are of our end user. If it's on a computer that maybe doesn't have access to Flash, then we might want to think about designing for an interactive PDF. Now, if our intended audience has access to Flash on their machines, then we have a couple of options. We can output our file to a SWF file so that it can be embedded in a web page, or it can be viewed in a web browser. Or we can actually output our file to FLA format, which is for Flash Professional. And then additional features can be built in or modified in Flash Professional. So let's go ahead and look at SWF first. I'm going to jump over here to File and choose Export here. And let's just title this one 18_example. And I want to make sure that the Save As Type is listed as Flash Player, SWF, right here. So I'll go ahead and save that out. And we're going to be presented with the Export SWF options here. Now, the first thing I want you to notice here is that the selection option here is grayed out. I didn't have anything selected in my document when I actually chose to export this. So if I were to, let me just cancel that dialog out. Let's just select this text frame here and hit export and save again. Notice that the selection option is available. So we can export just selected objects within our interactive document that have Flash animations applied to them out to SWF files. Now, the use for this would be to actually export them out, and then we could come in and place those elements back into our documents. This is one way that we can sort of trick InDesign into exporting Flash elements into PDF format. So let's go ahead and move on. I want to go in and just select all pages here. We could always select Arrange if we wanted to. Now, whenever we generate a SWF file, we have the option to generate an HTML file, which goes along with that. That's going to make it really easy just to launch that SWF file in your default web browser. Now, you also need to remember that if you have multimedia files built into your interactive presentation here, that you're going to end up with a resources folder as well, where those videos or audio files are stored. So we have an option to view the SWF after we export it. We have some size options here. Now, we can scale our SWF up or down here. You can see here that we have presets for that, or we can manually type in a number. We could choose to fit it to a specific resolution here. You see there's a number of options for that as well. Or we can manually scale it. You can see here we can input width and height values here. I'm going to go ahead and switch back up to scale, and I'm going to set it about 75%. It's a rather large document we're working with here, and it's actually larger when it's exported at 100% than the area I'm recording this video in. So let's go ahead and bounce down here to the background. So if we leave the background set to paper color, then that's what color any 100% transparent areas are going to pick up. They're going to pick up the paper color. Now, if we choose the transparent option here, those transparent areas would be maintained, but watch what happens. We now lose the options to have both page transitions or this interactive page curl at the bottom of this dialog. So keep that in mind when you're selecting what type of background. We'll leave that at paper color. For interactive media, we can either include it all, or we can include the appearance of the interactive elements only. Now, if we choose appearance only, then when it comes to things like buttons, we're only going to get the normal appearance state. And obviously the interactivity is going to be stripped from the button. When it comes to multimedia files like video and sound, we're going to get only the poster image that was used for that file. So you can see here again we have the option to choose page transitions right here from the exported SWF file. So we could choose none. We could choose from the document, which would use whichever ones we set over here in the page panel or the page transitions panel. We could come in here and select any one of the default page transitions, and we also have the option to use an interactive page scroll. Now I'll show you the difference between those here in just a moment. Let's go ahead and deselect this, and let's go ahead and choose from document here. And we'll jump over here and look at some advanced options. Now, when thinking about advanced options, we have first the frame rate. Now, the cool thing is here is you can mouse over each one of these settings and you'll get a description of it down here below. So basically your default frame rate is set to 24 frames per second. Now we can increase that and it will actually smooth out our animations just a bit, but it's also going to increase the size of our file we're outputting. Now, jumping down to text, you see that we have three options. We have Flash Classic Text, we have the option to convert our text to outlines, or we can convert it to pixels. For the smallest possible file size, I would leave it set to Flash Classic Text. That's going to maintain the editability, or excuse me, the searchability of the text when it comes to web browsing. Creating outlines out of your text is just very similar to actually creating outlines of text in either InDesign or even Illustrator. If we convert it to pixels and we're dealing with very small text like this here, then we're going to have to worry about little jagged edges, and it's going to make our text a little harder to read. So I'll leave that set to Flash Classic Text here. And for options down below, we have Rasterize Pages and Flatten Transparency. Now, similar to outputting our text as pixels, we have the option to rasterize all page elements here. We can do that, or we can even flatten the transparency. Now, if we choose to flatten transparency here, any transparent elements would be maintained, but we are going to lose all interactivity if we choose flatten transparency. Now, when it comes to image handling, this is very similar to when we outputted to PDF. We have compression options here for lossy, and now it's PNG for lossless rather than JPEG 2000. And we have automatic, which would let InDesign choose for us. We have quality settings, and we have resolution settings here. I'm just going to leave all these the way they are, and we'll hit OK. And it's going to take just a moment for Flash to export this entire document. I'll go ahead and pause the video while it's exporting. Alright, so InDesign has finished outputting our Swift file here, and you can see that because I had it set to open upon completion, we've got our interactive Flash file here. So we can actually click through this, and you can see each of the page transitions that we had applied, as well as each of the interactive elements here in this Flash file. So let's go ahead and minimize this here. I'm not going to thumb through that completely. We'll come back to an example here in just a moment because I want to show you how we can output this to a file compatible for editing in Flash Professional. Let me go ahead and hit Control E. We're going to, instead of choosing Flash Player Swift here, let's go ahead and choose Flash CS5 Professional, FLA, right there. So if we hit Save at this point, we're going to get a lot of the same options here. Things like selection, as far as the export, we can export to selection or all pages or a range of pages. We can rasterize our pages, and we can flatten our transparency again. We have size and scaling options here, and then interactive and media options. Now, so far, really the only different thing here is this text option. Now, if we drop that down, you see we do have the Flash Classic Text, convert to outlines and convert to pixels, but we also have this Flash TLF text. Now, this is going to let us take advantage of the rich set of text layout framework attributes in Flash. So if you're a Flash user, you do have that ability here. We also, if we choose that, have the ability to insert discretionary hyphenation points as well. So let's just go ahead and choose Flash Classic Text for right now. And lastly, we have the image handling and compression down here. So I'll leave all that set as it is, and I'll go ahead and hit OK. Alright, great. So with that said, we've gone ahead and exported both Swift files and FLA files here right out of InDesign. Now, I do want to go ahead and show you one thing you need to be aware of when you're working with page transitions as well as Flash animations in your project. So I'm going to come over here and bring up this option right here. Now, this particular option was exported with a fade page transition in between pages. And you can see here, as I click through this, we get this nice fade between pages. Now, there is an issue when we come to, I believe, page 4 here. Did you notice how we saw all these elements as the page was fading in, and then as soon as it was done fading in, they disappeared, and each one of these fade-in animations started to occur. So that is an issue. You need to be aware that sometimes the fade-ins or other animations may sort of appear ghosted as you're cycling through your page transitions. So we'll just kind of do that again here. The same thing is going to work when it comes to the page turn. If we go ahead and use the page turn page transition that was applied through the page transitions panel, you can see here that it applies this nifty little page turn, making our layout appear like it's a magazine. But again, when we get to that page 4, we get that ghosted preview of our elements, and then they fade in like the animation tells them to. So now if you remember, when we were looking at the export options, there was the option to do a page transition for page turn, and then there was one called interactive page curl. Now these sound kind of similar, and they actually look a little bit similar too, but I want you to know the difference between them. The page turn requires that you actually have a page turn button or next page button created here, like we do in this document. You can see here that when I click the next page button, it turns the page. Now, the interactive page curl, on the other hand, if we use that, that allows people to click and drag the pages, like they're actually turning the pages of a magazine here. So you can see here that I can click down here in the corner, and when I mouse over that corner, it starts to flip up, the page does. And again, we can flip and turn that page. Alright, so that is the difference between the page turn and the page curl. So that's going to bring us to the conclusion of this course focusing on interactivity in InDesign. Hopefully you've enjoyed the course. I know I've enjoyed being here with you. I'm curious to see what type of interactive jobs that you end up creating here in InDesign. Feel free to jump on our forums and share those with our community.